Watching movies can take a while, and they often go out of style. But there's Megan and Ben to tell you what to watch with a smile. So I married a cinephile.
And we're rolling. Hi guys, I'm Ben Farmer and I'm a cinephile.
I'm Megan Carver and I'm a cine newbie. We watch all kinds of movies, new and old.
And we let you know if you should watch them too. Welcome back to another episode of season 5 of So I Married a Cinephile. Megan, how are you?
I'm still good because I took a nap and I feel amazing. And I'm not a good napper. I'm not a good napper at all, but I've discovered
naps.
weighted blankets and the eye covers and earplugs. And now I'm like, oh my God, I'm
You
a
nap-
napping champ.
You nap like you are taking a red eye from Portland to New York constantly. Like you got earplugs, you got the mask, you got the weighted blankets. No one's giving you drink service.
No,
we just
I'm
passed right by you.
Out.
Like she doesn't want
How about you, babe? How are you
I
doing?
am feeling the same. I got 15 minutes in for a nap, which is great. We both drank our electrolytes, so we are rip roaring and ready to go. I'm very excited for our guests today.
I cannot tell you how excited
You guys,
I
if
am.
you thought we were a power couple, get ready for these two.
Hold on to your butts.
Hold on to your butts because we have an amazing couple, Jake Michels, who is a director, producer, game board enthusiast, and his amazing wife, Katie Michels, who is an actor and also a game board enthusiast.
And
both
also
of
in
them-
LA.
And also in LA. Both of them coming
And
from Los
yeah,
Angeles.
you guys, welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. What a great intro.
Honestly, should have asked to be introduced as power couple. Always.
Yeah.
Just asterisk power couple.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Jennifer
don't know
Michaels.
how
I
you
mean, we do-
officially level up, but
We do have a neon light above our bed that says power couple, but beyond that,
Oh, yeah.
Is it constantly on? Just
yeah,
We
we
got
haven't
a-
slept in years.
We got a postcard saying that we had finally reached that level, but they're back ordered on Power Couple Neon Lights. So it's on its way, but they'll let us know when it's in. Also, belated happy birthday, Katie Michels.
Belated happy
Thank
birthday.
you.
That was yesterday, right?
Yeah, yesterday. Thank you.
And
Thank you
also,
so much.
too, it was you last show for
Yes.
Dungeon Run.
Last show on caffeine, so we're hoping we're going to take it to another platform, but we don't have information yet. But
Okay.
yeah,
I
last show on
thought you-
caffeine.
I
So
thought you
we'll
literally
send that
meant
energy out.
last show drinking caffeine. I was like,
I know we had a lot of
You're
confusion
cutting
with
out
that
coffee.
yesterday. Where people we're like, I'm gonna miss caffeine. It sounds like we're like cutting something else.
Right. You're like,
No,
it's-
last show there, but you can still watch all of them. The VODs are on YouTube.
All right.
There's 82 episodes available.
Holy
So,
crap.
I know. So if you like
Congrats.
D&D, check it out.
That's
Check it
amazing. Congrats,
out.
guys.
Awesome.
On to
Yeah.
greener pastures, it sounds like. But
yeah.
and I know the two choices for movies we sent you guys were this movie and Step Up, I think.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Center Stage or
Step
something.
Up. I think it was Step
No,
Up.
it wasn't Center Stage because Center Stage I know well.
Yeah.
And
Do you?
Megan, I think
I
Megan
also
knows
know.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Center
it was
Very
Stage.
True
well.
Lies, actually.
True Lies
It
was the
was True
initial.
Lies. Here's
True
the thing
Lies
about True Lies.
originally.
I don't know if you guys actually looked online, but you
frustrating.
cannot find True Lies to buy or rent anywhere.
No.
I went as far as looking at like the nearest Walmart or Best Buy or Target just to see if they were selling it, and nobody was.
No.
Is
I
it
don't
one of
know
those
if it's-
ones that's having the issues with the music rights?
Oh, maybe. I thought maybe because
Or
of HBO Max.
They put it back in the Disney vault. And so
Well, it's a Disney movie
10
now,
years
right?
until it comes out again.
Is it?
I
I
think
don't
so.
know.
I think
When I think of True Lies, I think Disney.
I
Well,
know.
They do exhibit
again-
at Disneyland, True Lies World, right?
It's terrifying.
And we talked about this before because Rocky
Taking
Horror
over the
Picture
small
Show is a 20th Century Fox movie, which means Frankenfurter is now a Disney princess.
Oh,
it.
wow.
So just
Good.
deal with that.
I love it.
Great.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
We're also being joined by our amazing producer, Molly McCarthy. Welcome back.
Molly,
Thanks
how
for
are
being
you
here.
doing?
I'm here. I'm in the forest.
You are.
Great.
It's a tangible forest.
It's a tangible forest. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I live in a basement, so coming to you from my basement with the forest, and it's great.
It's amazing. I
I'm
love
happy
it.
to always be here. Yeah, and I'm excited to hear everyone's thoughts on this movie because I had a lot while watching. So Back over to you guys.
Well, since we won't,
She's like,
don't
I
wanna
can say
keep,
nothing else.
Yeah, don't want to keep our listeners, our cine fans, in suspense and in cine suspense any
Cinesuspense.
longer.
We usually have like a cleverish transition, a clever
Oh
but
my
clumsy
God.
transition into
So then that
the
means
movie
we need to
watched.
be sponsored by Cinnabon. Does that mean that it's butts that watch movies, or is it rolls that watch movies?
You know what? There would probably
Mm.
be a commercial about that in the movie we watched this last week,
There
because this
probably
movie
will.
was full of gag commercials, and I'm here for it
Yes.
because
We
watched RoboCop,
RoboCop.
the 1987 RoboCop. I should specify because there was a remake. There's also 2 sequels. It's a movie that spawned an animated series, a ton of action figures. It was
I
an
can
80s action
understand why.
movie. So, of course, they would turn a rated R 80s action movie into children's toys. I'm pretty sure I owned one. Made in 1987, again, starring, of course, Peter Weller in
Oh my
probably his
God.
career-defining role
I freaking can't.
You
in
freaking-
such a good way.
as Alex Murphy.
I'm
He also
here for it.
voiced. He also voiced Batman at one point.
What?
The cartoon version of The Dark Knight Returns.
Okay, well now he's hot.
And he's amazing. He's got the
He
perfect
wasn't
voice
hot
for it.
until this moment.
Also starring Nancy Allen as Officer Lewis. We have Ronnie Cox rounding out the supporting cast as Ned Jones. And
Ned Jones
Ned
is
Jones
here.
is here. And we have Red Foreman himself, Mr. Kurtwood Smith, as our main antagonist, as Clarence
So
Bodiger,
amazing.
which I love. It's like
If
he got such an amazing opportunity so early on.
If you
and
ever wanted an angry dad, instead of him being mad about the garbage bins falling over, he's mad about like everything related to cocaine. I
The
don't.
money getting burnt.
Yes.
Bobby.
You burned the money, you dumbass. You burned it.
Oh my God.
Oh man! So again, directed by Paul Verhoeven for our podcast fans who who have listened to our episode of Showgirls. Same director, so very different movies.
Those
I
2
know.
points of his bodies of work.
Oh,
That's great.
man.
They should
It's
do like
true.
a Flintstones meets the Jetsons version, like
Oh
Showgirls
my
meets
God.
RoboCop.
Just
It's funny.
thinking that.
I'm here for it.
I was
Yeah.
thinking he was
Make each
so
other
much
better.
more. I thought I knew so many movies that he'd done, and Katie asked me like, "What else has he done?" I was like, "Well, Total Recall," and then I couldn't name another one, and then I had to look it up.
It's
Yeah.
kind of a deep dive, Das Boot, a bit of a deep dive into his filmography, but yeah, he's. I wish you could nail him down. He's sort of like the Ridley Scott
can't.
of.
He
I don't think
cannot
he's
be tamed.
Austrian, but yeah, he's in so many genres. He's in
He's
so many
the
genres. You're
Ridley
like
Scott of what is it? Holland? I think he's
of
Dutch or
Holland.
something.
Yeah, maybe we'll just say Holland and just let that be.
It's in Denmark
God.
or Danish.
I mean,
No, maybe not.
you know,
I don't
it's
know.
all
I
just
know
kind of
nothing.
like-
Not
He's up
American.
there, European.
not
Yeah.
American. So what
Yeah,
do
yeah,
we
yeah.
care? Plot
Northern.
breakdown. Plot breakdown per IMDb in a dystopic.
Dystopic.
I want to say dystopic though. Okay, in a dystopic and crime-ridden Detroit. Oh, Detroit. Oh.
Is it
Oh, no.
Detroit?
Should we
Yeah,
do
it's
a sound
Detroit.
for yeah, it is Detroit.
Yeah.
So they
This
actually
is- if you're one of our
They-
Patreons that subscribes to the video, I'm signing awkward right
they
now.
predicted that. Dystopic and crime-ridden Detroit, a terminally wounded cop returns to the force as a powerful cyborg, haunted by submerged memories. Do you have a problem with that already?
No, I have no problems with it. Yes, I do, but I don't. Yes, and it's both.
So
Yes, and I have a huge problem with it.
Right.
So we usually do a quick segment called Plot in 60 Seconds.
Oh yes.
And I don't know if Molly told you about that in our email, but Plot in 60 Seconds
sure did.
is giving you guys the opportunity to describe the entire plot of RoboCop in 60 seconds.
Oh my
Usually
God.
when we've had 2 guests, you split it like 30 seconds each or 20, 40, either way. So whoever wants to start,
And
Well, I'll start
spoilers are okay.
spoilers are okay.
Yeah, spoilers
Spoilers
are
are
fine.
fine.
Yes.
I'll start because Jake will be able to tell you the actual plot, but this is what I got from the movie.
All right.
Which
All
it
right.
is
60
people,
seconds.
okay.
Go.
contractors competing for a police contract and then shooting each other. And there's a
Wow.
robot.
That was 8 seconds.
Jake,
I
That
have to
was
fix
well
that.
done.
Okay.
Okay.
that's like my big takeaway.
Yeah, like
Here you
in a near future, I think it's 1997, right?
I think so.
Alex Murphy's a skinny, big-lipped cop who gets shot in the face and comes back as a cyborg, bent on avenging his own death. Along the way, we're met with a series of corporate contractors, as Katie likes to mention,
Not
who
wrong.
own contracts with the police and make super futuristic weaponry, which includes RoboCop himself, and one of his antagonists, the series of letters and numbers.
ED209, right?
ED209, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything
And
else?
by
10
using
seconds.
a record
And a
amount
veiled
of
love
ammunition,
story.
the police try and stop him, but fail.
That's
Oh.
solid.
Nice
That
job,
was
guys.
solid,
Take
guys.
that, IMDb.
With 3 seconds to spare.
That was awesome.
I just want to jump into like your initial reaction. Megan, you clearly had a vocal
I mean,
reaction
did,
when I read the plot here.
But
So
before we do that, I did just want to take a moment to call out Katie Michels, who had posted on Twitter that she said, "I'm watching RoboCop for the first time. What is it about?" The responses here are amazing.
please read them.
Policeman is given a dog as a partner. Hijinks ensue.
That's Turner and Hooch.
It asks the question, would you buy this for $1?
It's not wrong.
Love and human kindness. It's really a thought-provoking, pivotal cinematic masterpiece filled with deep feelings and soup con of romanticism and a guy covered in toxic waste. It's about buying things for $1.
Popular.
Then someone
Squibs.
just put
I
in
just saw
all caps is just squibs.
I saw squibs in all caps. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Squibs.
the use of there was never a gun in this movie that was fired only once.
No.
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 Like,
And there was
that
never a
is-
person in this movie who was shot only once.
No,
Yeah.
no. Like I was concerned at the gun range at the police station. What was going on?
Yeah.
Everyone is just shooting at the same time constantly.
The police budget is like 80% ammunition.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
OCP like 80%. I would love to fill out the invoices, just crates and crates of ammo.
I
Yeah.
saw this movie far too young. It was one of the first rated
Me
R movies
too.
I ever saw. Yeah,
wait,
I was like 10. I think.
but this is first impression. So Jake, what was your first impression? First time you saw it?
Yeah.
Like,
What's your history with
your-
the
I was
movie?
like I was into action movies at that time that were rated R because my parents wouldn't let me watch them. So whenever I would go over to friends' house who could watch them, it was all I would try and do is to watch as many rated R movies
Oh.
as we could.
Of course.
And sci-fi violence or sci-fi action I should say I was way into. So this one was very exciting, but it was so much darker than I was expecting, especially like when the first 10 minutes in, the main character gets his hand blown off and is like
Oh my
tortured with
God.
an insane amount of weaponry,
Yeah.
and then has
Like his
face
first day
blown.
there.
And
It's like, hey, welcome. We're gonna put your plaque on it. Never mind.
and they're keeping him alive.
Like-
Yeah,
Like
it
the
was just like
paramedics show up and they're just like,
when I
"Oh,
was a
man."
kid. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, when I was a kid, I was very excited about action movies. I was you could get into it. Like when I saw Speed for the first time, it's like that's when you can
Yeah.
like cheer on the whole time. But after
Yeah.
the first 10 minutes of this one, I was much quieter, but still very much watching the film. I was just like, oh, what am I in for?
Yeah.
Right.
The end of Act 1 kind of leaves you very whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Katie, what about you?
I mean, I think I've had the same impression, but as an adult. I feel like
Last
10 minutes
week.
in, I was like numb to how many bullets were used at this point.
Yeah.
already in the movie.
It was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, I got very hung up on the hierarchy of the corporate structure within the movie, which Jake was like, how is that your takeaway? But it is confusing. I didn't understand whose boss was whom and how that worked out.
She was
I
really
thought
trying to
the
figure
old
out.
guy was the main boss, and then the guy who shot the other guy was the middle boss, and then there
Did
was
you make
not
like a
boss.
spreadsheet? Like an Excel
In my
spreadsheet?
head, yes. In my head, there's one of those graphs that like
Hierarchy.
lists out
This is
the
one of those
company
things where they go
structure.
to HR and they're like, look, I've tried to apply to move up and go up and climb the ladder, but I don't know how or where that goes or what it is.
Who do I talk to
going
if
on?
my boss sent someone to shoot me in the legs?
Who do I talk
And
to
then-
to find out who my boss is?
And then left a digital grenade on my counter.
Yeah, which I loved, by the way, that was literally just like a little watch. You could tell that they just broke off the top of like a watch and glued it on.
Also, Kurtwood Smith did not have to pull the pin out with his tongue, but he did, and I applaud it.
Yeah.
It was a choice. It was like,
So-
Also, that grenade is like a 20-second grenade. Like, who's gonna
This is
throw
such a
something
long
that they
time.
expect to detonate 20 seconds later?
yeah.
I was really
and
shocked
I've-
by how much money those bad guys seem to have. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
man. Yeah.
the
Well, they burnt
weapons,
half
also
of it.
like the loosey goosey way in which they just pack coke in like giant piles
Yeah,
in a warehouse.
And also
In little
too, I'm like in the
bottles.
little bottles. I'm like, who are we doing? Like, is this boutique cocaine? Like,
artisanal
it's
cocaine.
Yeah,
bougie
it
ass
seemed
cocaine.
very frivolous.
And how the cocaine
They're not apologetic at all.
distributor always carries around a glass of red wine.
They're
which I
like,
also thought was a
we're
choice.
not. This is our brand. We're not doing Ziploc bags. We're not going to put them in big giant packs. We are putting them in beakers and treating it with respect because it's a product we should respect.
Yeah.
Looked like popcorn salt.
It did.
It's like, here's some
Yes.
delicious popcorn salt.
So this was Megan's first
This
time.
was also my first time.
Megan's
seeing
first
it.
time seeing it. Jake, I had a very similar experience that you did. Any rated R movie that I wanted to watch, I had to go over to a friend's house and watch it. We had these periodic family viewings of violent rated R movies. I remember all of us gathering around the TV when we got our HBO subscription to watch the premiere of Terminator 2 Judgment Day. That blew my mind because I
such a
must have
good
been 8 or 9 years old, but I didn't see this movie, I don't think, until after. But whenever it was on TV, my parents always made me leave the room for certain scenes, and I try to like sneak around the corner, see what was
That's
going
such a
on
funny
there.
thing. Like, you remember like having to cover your eyes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they kicked me out of the room
Like-
during the sex scene of Forrest Gump, and I'm like, this is a PG-13 movie, and this is like the
It also
cleanest-
lasts for about 8 seconds, so by the time you get
Right.
out, you need to come back in.
Right. By the time you're like,
I
no,
walk-
come back. You're gonna miss
I
something.
walked back in and I said, I'm not a smart man, but I know what love.
I'm pretty sure we
I-
got in trouble for watching this rated R movie. Like my friend's parents were okay with us watching rated R movies, but I don't think they were okay with me watching this. And I think Total Recall in the same weekend. They were
Total
like,
It's like anything
If you
directed
watch
by
it-
him.
You
think
guys
we
just
got
had
in
like a
trouble.
Paul
Showgirls,
Verhoeven
Das
thing.
Boot,
Did you
Total
even mean
Recall.
to? Or
no,
did
I
you
don't
do
think
it?
that was intentional. I don't think he was that much of. He had a director.
There are
Why not?
9-year-olds being like,
Guys,
let's do a Paul Verhoeven.
Let's do a Paul
marathon."
Verhoeven weekend. Yes,
I think we're
correct.
gonna theme our Saturday.
But I think Ben and Jake, you guys have. I talked to a couple of my guy friends, and they all have the same reaction to this
That's
movie, which was,
so-
I saw this movie too young.
Way too
Yeah.
young.
I watched it again as an adult, and I realized I shouldn't have watched this movie at 9 years old.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that is the blanket reaction I get from a lot of my guy friends.
Well, it's kind of
Yeah.
marketed like a superhero film, you know.
It
And
really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Well-
told Megan that going in, I'm like, it really is more of a very violent superhero film. If you think of movies like Darkman, where I don't know if you've seen Darkman, but essentially
No
Liam
idea what that
Neeson, and it's been a while since I've seen Darkman, but
You mean Batman, Dark Knight?
I was,
no, Darkman.
Do you mean Batman?
There are I think
Batman?
four
Do you
Darkman
mean-
movies, I think. Something
There-
like that. But
Darkman
Liam Neeson-
Rises.
There's too many.
Darkman,
There's
Gotham
too many.
City.
Turns.
But
Darkman
Liam
Peter
Neeson
Weller
Begins.
ends
voiced
up-
Darkman, as Katie mentioned. Yeah.
But and then Liam Neeson ends up in Batman Begins, which
I love
is
Liam Neeson.
It's Darkman Begins.
pretty amazing. But similar to that, Darkman was a movie about a I think he was a scientist who was brutalized by these corporate, no goods, and then he ends up getting like burned with all this acid, and then he bandages himself up and comes back looking like a mix between Dick Tracy and the Invisible Man. And he's like,
And he like
brutally-
makes fake masks of other people's faces that are like temporary.
Right.
They only last for like an hour, so he
And
can
I
fake
think-
being other people briefly.
Frances
Whoa.
McDormand is in the
pretty
first one. Like, it's crazy.
Yes,
I have to
she
go
is.
back
She's
and
like
watch
a
that one.
Is she a blonde in it even?
I
Like
think
it's
so.
I think you're right. It is
Right.
Frances.
She's like, I'm gonna
yeah.
marry one of the Coen brothers, and then we're gonna do Dark.
This
Man. I'm
movie
gonna
I
check all
remember
this
like
stuff.
also had like humor to it. Like when the executive gets his whole body blown
Obliterated
off.
is the word?
Yeah, obliterated. Thank you. In
Yeah.
For
the
15
God
seconds.
bless it.
in the board
That
meeting.
was so.
And they yell out, "Can we get a
excessive.
paramedic in
Oh,
here?"
can we get a
I
paramedic in
know.
here?
Katie started laughing, and I started laughing too, but for different reasons. I think she thought it was a bad line. I was like, I think that's intentionally like they said how
Exactly.
stupid that is, right?
Exactly. And I wanted to get into that a little bit. And I think it's a little tied into Paul Verhoeven's not only style of direction, but what he was trying to convey in this movie, and maybe with the script, is that I think he thought we are also desensitized to violence as Americans, especially in the mid to late 80s when it was just nothing but excess all the time. So he's just like, I'm going to put as much violence and blood on the screen as possible and make it so over the top that in a lot of scenes people just can't help but laugh, because this guy is still getting shot while he's laying
Oh my God,
on like
it
the
was
city model of New
really
Detroit. I'm like,
so
okay, I get the
unnecessary.
symbolism, but it is
It's like
very
he's
unnecessary.
gone. You can leave it. He's
You
gone.
guys also notice that all the scientists in this movie have no idea how to do their job.
No,
Yes.
they're like pulling on circuitry and like trying
Any
to
scene
stop
with
the dro-
scientists, when anything happens, they're like, "Oh, computer."
Let's
Like,
check the receipts.
Yeah, they have no idea.
And RoboCop too. Like there are points where they're like, "Oh, he just like walks
I
out of the
love
building."
too
They're
when
like,
they
"Hey,
just-
he can't do
You
that."
can't
Yeah.
do that. It's like, yeah, I don't think he's gonna listen to you.
I'm sorry.
No
Was there not-
knowledge about it.
How is there
No.
not a built-in power down
fail
function?
safe.
Right, seriously.
Well, 'cause
Even
then there'd be no
bombs
movie.
have that.
They
Bombs
do. They
it.
have one. It's rip the cords out of the wall.
Yes.
Out of, right.
Except he's the first wireless one, and they're
He's-
like, well, fuck, we can't do that.
That's right.
This is why wireless actually took so long.
Oh.
We actually had it way earlier, but RoboCop ruined it.
I also
Said it
want
way
to
back.
single out what is probably my favorite performance in the movie is not the paramedic, but the lead doctor when they get Alex to the hospital because he's somehow alive. Number one,
No.
and then I think they actually
has a
hired.
heartbeat. No.
I think they actually hired a real life doctor because he's just like, okay, let's intubate this guy. Okay, well let's try the pads
All
again.
right, we'll do a shock one more time.
Okay,
and then
everyone
we'll
stand
call
back.
It.
Okay, yeah,
It
let's
was
try one more
so
time. And I'm like, this guy is
nonchalant.
not matching.
I was
No.
disturbed by his
Like
lack of
everyone
mask
else
as
is-
well.
Freaking
Like, just-
out.
Just spewing like his spittle and his mustache hair into
Yeah.
Alex's wounds.
No,
Yeah.
he's been used to triaging for so long that it's just all completely like if he was here in COVID times, he'd be like, all right, yeah, we'll just send him right back out. Okay, let's just get it on out of there. Good, it's fine. It'd be like people would be like, are you dead inside? And be like, yeah, pretty much.
Is there any like particular scene that stood out to you guys?
Yeah, let's shift on over to Cute Bay. Cute Bay.
Well, so Katie and I had this debate about Bobby, who is the
My favorite character.
the gang member who
Bye,
blew
bye,
the door
Bobby.
too early.
Oh
and
my
burnt the
God.
money.
I think he's still alive.
So Katie saw like he gets shot. She feels bad for him. They pick him up and throw him out, and she goes, "Did they just throw their own guy out?" I was like, "He burnt the money, babe, and also he's like a liability now." She's like, "What?" And then the cops push him off of the car, and Katie was so concerned, literally
driving.
about his self-esteem, like about how Bobby's ego was in that moment, that he got rejected not only by his friends but by the police.
He
Mhm.
wasn't the
Oh.
only one involved in the heist, and they blamed the whole thing on him.
Yeah. Hope you know how to fly, Bobby.
Oh, is that the line?
I
thought
can't
it was
remember.
Bye
It
Bye
was-
Bobby.
So when they
Oh.
cut to the
Oh.
hospital scene, Katie goes, "They finally got him to the hospital?"
No, I didn't think that was Bobby.
he's the next bed over.
I didn't think that was Bobby. I
Oh, right.
thought, which is even
Right.
honestly worse, I thought it was the guy from the boardroom.
Oh no!
Oh,
She goes, "They finally
no.
got him to the
They're
hospital."
They're
I
just
go,
trying
"Do
to
you
get
know
him
whose
back up.
story we're following here?"
I did not.
To be fair, okay. So
I spent a lot of time worrying about Bobby, and I kind of got off track.
So then
I
that
will
was
admit. And then, yeah.
Preoccupied.
Bobby might be your favorite character. Then is
I would
that
say so,
safe to
yeah.
assume? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice anything funny about that whole sequence in general? The when they are in the car chasing this van of hoodlums to
Yeah.
the steel mill, like that is a scene, and I was talking to Molly about this earlier. It's a scene that actually stands out because it looks so different than the rest of the movie. And I'm wondering if you guys caught on to that. Maybe this is bridging into trivia too soon.
I think
but
it is. I think you're.
Is it too soon?
I think you're
The
jumping the gun, unlike everyone else, or much like everyone in this movie, jumping the gun and firing far too soon.
It's because that scene was directed by somebody else.
Well,
The
So-
second
now
unit.
now it's root. Now we can't do
I'll get
any
into specifics
trivia.
and
Now
tell
we
you
can't
why.
do
That's
any
it.
trivia.
no,
But yeah.
trivia is canceled.
It is.
Oh,
You just
no.
ruined.
But it was the first time
trivia
I watched
and
this movie. I'm
Christmas.
like, this scene looks really weird. Like it's super bright and kind of clean looking, and Alex is like beep beep beep, like two pistols out
There's
the
a lot
side
of
of the window. And I'm
juxtaposition
like,
of different things in this town too. Like the Detroit police station looks like it is from like a 1980s TV show, right? Like it has
Yes.
wood paneling and everybody's
Like
dressed
Hill
like
Street
a cop. And there's
Blues.
like
It's
and
like-
like the DA's getting or the defense attorneys are getting thrown out in the beginning. I'm like, this looks like everything else. But then the corporate headquarters are all super futuristic, and
Yeah.
everything else
Yeah.
around it is all very future.
and all the
Very
cops are
inconsistent.
super pissed. Like you get that opening scene of like I forget. I think
Oh,
one
right.
police
They're like,
officer
we should
dies.
form a
and-
union.
Yeah, all these cops are like, let's unionize. Do you hear the people sing and all this kind of stuff? And they like come in and they take his name off the locker and they're like, oh, they're like pounding their heads against the wall.
Yeah,
They're like,
everyone is
Sarge,
just-
what are we gonna do? And
everyone
he's
is
like, hey,
so
no one strikes
aggressive.
around here. And I'm
Like that was
everyone
my,
is yelling.
and just to say, like that was my biggest first impression, and my biggest impression about this movie overall was just angry widow's peaks all over the place. That's all this movie was men being angry and having intense hairlines. Like that's, ugh.
My initial thought in the police station was I thought they had nice male female titty and haircut
I
quality.
noticed that too.
There was same amount of nipples, man to female, and everyone had the same haircut and same hair color.
You know what? You're
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
I just put naked cops exclamation point.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, we're definitely 80s because there's tits and butts
Also,
everywhere.
like, why was it so full all the time in every room of the police station?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there
Because
was
they
nobody out on the streets then. Everybody.
No,
Like, literally, all cops were all together at all
Like,
times.
I
no
think the
wonder
problem-
there's so much crime because you
I
guys are all
legit-
here bitching.
I legit think they like rented out this old hospital and there was so much space that they had to just pack every scene.
Also,
And because you have these giant rooms in what is clearly like some sort of abandoned psych ward or something like that. And you just had to stuff every shot with as much
Okay.
people and lockers.
so
and
I'm going to
possible.
interject and I'm going to bring us back to Q and Bay for favorites because I feel like this is bridging into rants and raves. And I
All
want to
right.
make sure that if
Oh,
people
yeah,
want to
okay.
get rants and
Oh,
raves, you
no.
got to be sure you subscribe to our Patreon to get this because I'm
That's true.
feeling this is going to be wild. So, all right. So Jake, what about you? Favorite scene, favorite character, favorite, or is there something that really stuck out to you in terms of a sequence?
I mean, one of the things I remember also watching as a kid was how like haunting it was. It's very dark and very sad. Like his memories of his family, I remember being like, this is kind of tragic where we get to see what he saw right before he left for work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally
Yeah.
him driving out of the cul-de-sac. But, like,
Oh, I didn't know that was before he left for work.
Also, he's not looking forward when he's driving. He's looking
I
out
know,
the
he's
back
legit-
of his
he's looking
car, waving
backwards.
at his family.
yeah, he's
For, like,
prone
5
to get in
bucks?
an accident. Like if his insurance agent saw that, he'd be pissed. But like,
okay. I don't know why, but I thought for some reason, this is totally new to me. I thought that he and his family had split and that was the last time that they had seen him and that like the mom and him had divorced or something. For some reason, I thought that. And then I was
Like
like,
that too. I still think that. Is that not
Really?
Like,
Whoa.
I was like,
Wrong.
I thought it was like, oh, that was like the last pleasant memory that he had. And other than
Yeah.
that, like they had gotten divorced and like he didn't see his kid ever. No. Okay.
They died?
There's like a minute in there that you missed.
Did I go get
what minute
like,
is it? Because I don't remember when they do specifically talk about. I mean, I know he references his kid because he's talking about his
the
cool gun move.
tricks?
Yeah.
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 And we had the flashbacks to his kid obviously later, but when did they
Someone
mention
someone tells him. I feel like
that
maybe
his wife
I make this
left?
Maybe.
Yeah, no, that Anne tells him, right?
yeah. After
Mhm.
he
Oh,
was
yes.
assumed dead,
Yeah.
his family moved on
Yeah.
and
Right.
literally moved away,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which is why when he goes to the house,
There's
it's
no one
empty
there.
then, and that
I don't
weird
know
TV
why.
screen is there.
How
But
much
no,
time
Still
passes?
layered on this whole divorce backplot.
Did anybody notice like the interesting stuff at the house? Not to interrupt you, but like
Right.
the house had like some things left, but like
Yeah.
a phone and
Very-
like
Yeah.
a random
A
piece of furniture with a
vase.
sheet over it. It was very
And
Wasn't
strange.
like the kids-
flowers.
The
Yeah.
pitchfork
Yeah.
or something was on there too. Maybe I don't know.
There was just,
They
like-
only
there was,
rented
like-
the condo for 2 hours, and they were like, "Let's just go. We got to shoot.
we
Yeah.
Just clear it as it is. I know these plants are here and rotting, but let's just go.
set
do
decorations
it.
like, you want me to do what? No,
Yeah.
okay.
That was
Nothing. I want
definitely
you to
weird.
do nothing."
Right.
That's funny, Megan. Yeah, I totally thought that until now that's what happened.
Okay. Good. Me
Well,
too.
they make it feel that way because his memory of the wife is her being like, I have to tell you something, or we need to talk,
Yeah.
or whatever.
That's
Yeah.
a good
That
point.
whole memory until we see the full memory or memory. We don't even know if that's what actually happened or if that's
Right.
what RoboCop from
Ooh, wow,
programming.
that's
members.
interesting.
I think that's good
He's
filmmaking.
misremembering, maybe.
He could just be trying to fill in the blank because there is nothing there. The first time we
Mm.
see it, we don't know what she says after that.
That's
the
true.
second time we see it, her demeanor completely changes and it feels like a different memory.
Katie mockingly
that.
called that exact line. Do you remember that, Katie?
I have to
Did
tell you
you
something.
really?
Mel?
I have to tell you something. And there was a pause. She goes, I love you. And then the character goes, I love
I
you.
mean,
And she
Megan
goes,
does that to
"What?"
me all the time. I just
Which
walk into a room
I
and she
just
runs
have
up to
to
me and
say-
is like, I have to tell you something. I'm like, Jesus.
I have to say too, like, she's my favorite character in the whole movie. Just the delivery of that line is so good. Just the 1, 2, 3 step that she takes in, and the slight, I have to tell you something. It was just
There was a little bit of
It was
aerobics
just
in there.
better than every other character in the film, Megan.
every other character. Like I
know what
wanted,
I
I
hope?
wanted her story.
I hope that her and Bobby get together.
Show me that movie.
Show
She
me
goes to a
that
hospital
movie.
and just like, you know.
Yeah.
And
That's what she says. I know you can't hear me, but I have to tell you something. I'm
No.
leaving and I love you.
So she's called to the hospital to go to the ICU, but she doesn't go to Alex's room. She goes to Bobby's room, and they end up like, "Oh, your husband's
Oh
dead."
wow.
And then Bobby's the next one over. She's like, "Well, this guy seems sad."
Yeah.
The next RoboCop movie is him going to Florida, where she lives now, with Bobby and confronting them.
Mhm.
See, I
And
want them
Bobby's
to go
been-
to Vegas, and that's where we pick up for Showgirls.
You see?
No.
Bobby's just been spending some time repairing his ego after he
I
got
know,
betrayed by
of
his
course.
friends.
His
Threw
ego
him out
in
of
his
the car.
body.
What about you, Megan? Any scenes that stick out to you?
No,
Favorite character?
I mean, I really, again, I love the main RoboCop dude. Just, and I can't remember. I'm horrible with actor names. You could say Mel Gibson, I'd be like, yes, he was amazing in this. Like, I wouldn't be able to.
Well,
tell
she
a difference.
confused Mel Gibson with Mel Brooks, and she's like,
I
"Yeah,
always do that.
remember when Mel Brooks directed Braveheart?" I'm like, "Yes, Mel Brooks is
See,
classic
I want
comedy.
that
Braveheart."
movie. In
Braveheart would have been so much funnier.
Mel
it would
Brooks.
have been so much better. But I mean, just like, and we talked about this, like his like whole robotic like movement
Oh,
thing.
man.
And like I remember watching it, and out loud I said to Ben, I was like, wait a second. I don't know why I was like, oh yeah, those animatronics are really guiding him in his movement. I was like, no,
Nope.
it's not real, Megan.
He's not a real
he
robot.
doesn't have a machine glued to him. That's all him. And I'm like, wow, that's like, that takes How Does Your Character Move acting class to a whole
Just-
new level.
And I think I
Which
watched
he
that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
He's
I watched
method,
that
isn't
stuff
he?
with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched those scenes with such a sharper eye this time, just to see that there are moments when he's like coming to a stop and like turns his head.
Oh
Where
yeah.
he has like all these
Yeah.
little weird like preempted head turns that I'm like, he had to work and time.
It's like
all
he
that
got to
with
the
coach.
end of the track where that would allow him to go, and then there's just this little jiggle at the end of it. I just fucking can't. I love that. I also have to say too, I'm a whore for prosthetics and like
Mhm.
prosthetics and practicals. So even though this movie was like super hard to watch visually, I'm still 100% here for it because I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And like the stop animation, I'm like, gimme. I love
Yeah.
it. I want more.
It's just charming as hell.
Well, I don't know about charming.
What?
I think
I thought the ED209 was really like, because of course it's a stop motion thing, and
Well,
you're
so
just like, oh my
why-
god, I totally buy that. That's
why
great.
does that thing have such like like animal noises to it? It's like growling like a
'Cause it's a-
tiger and
'cause
then
it's a
squealing
monster,
like
right?
A
Like,
pig.
It's yeah.
That's the
Did
thing
they,
about
like,
this movie
program that
is like
in?
well, it's such a faux superhero movie that it still has so many elements of that, right? Like RoboCop kind of has his own secret identity. Like they make a big deal about not mentioning his name, and like
Yes.
the ED209 or whatever it's called is like kind of like the monster, but not the villain. The villain is the corporate higher up kind of thing. That
The
feels very
man.
superhero-y, you know?
Yeah.
He's like the captain before the final boss. You know?
Yeah,
There you
exactly.
That
go.
you have to get through.
What's interesting though about the aesthetics of this movie is that like there's such cool futuristic stuff of that with like the corporation and things, but then when you get down to the cops, they're driving a Ford Taurus.
I noticed
But
that.
yeah, they put RoboCop, the most advanced thing in the world, in like
In a
this shitty
Taurus.
little car.
Which has a
Taurus.
terrible paint job as well. It's like not
It's
black,
so
it's
bad.
like slate.
It's like
I love that.
Dull
I used to
slate.
have a Ford Taurus. I was like, it's my car. I got so excited.
Well, because in '87, you know, that looked like a futuristic car, right? But like
yes,
Right.
which is why they
that
used it.
by '89, it no longer.
or even 88. You're just like, oh,
Nice
Jesus.
car. That was the
short-
thing that got me. It was like the car, whatever, but it wasn't like nicely made
No.
up. It was like they
No.
spent presumably millions of dollars on this robot and put it in the world's like most basic car.
Right.
Which is like probably a dichotomy of like the cops are underfunded, but like the corporation got this huge contract from the government or whatever. And it's like kind of showing dystopian differences, I would think, but it still doesn't even come close in terms of matching.
No, not even
it's-
close.
no. I think that's true throughout. There's stuff that you're just like, Bert,
And I was trying to like follow along with the corporate. Did OCP buy the police in order to get all this work done in New Detroit? Can anyone help me clear this up?
I think they're just like, as Katie would say, they're contractors.
Right.
And so they just have a very lucrative contract. So they're like, they aren't the police, but they are pretty much like
This is not
the
what I thought, by the
executives.
way.
Yeah, Katie
Okay.
has been saying for quite some time, everybody works for the police.
Initially, my take of this movie was it was the police shooting other police,
Right.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's the main boss guy, and then the guy below him who like kills
Dick Jones.
who kills what's his face, Bob.
Dick.
Yeah.
Yes. No. Dick Jones.
And
Ned
they all are
Jones.
working within. To me, it all seemed like they all worked within the police. And then
Gotcha.
then the gang was also hired by technically then the
By
police.
OCP.
So
Yeah.
it's like an inside of an inside. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
never
It
ending.
was
Molly,
like
did you have-
a nesting doll of police brutality against each other.
I had a hard time figuring out what they were
Me too.
I was like,
Yeah.
why are you here and who are
Yes.
you? But basically it seemed like they were legal arms dealers. That's basically like
Essentially.
we're creating and distributing
Accurate.
arms, and there's two different people that need those things, and those are cops
And right.
Yeah.
and cartels, and so we're going to give them both and just let them eat each other.
So yeah, pretty much like it's really about the corporation. Like corporate
Yeah.
powers are powerful in this future, right?
Yes.
And so they have contracts for everything because the government relies on them, including
It's-
the local police. And
take a
so
moment
they're
to,
trying to Dick Jones is trying to offer this new mech robot thing,
Yeah.
and this young whippersnapper play Bob Norton or something like that.
Yeah. Something like that.
He's got RoboCop, and he wants his project to overcome Dick Jones's.
Dick Jones.
Well, Dick Jones's presentation
Oh.
doesn't go well, some might say.
No.
Does not
And
go his
so
way.
now they're competing with each other. So Dick Jones also
Which-
has these gang members working for him. So that's why they tie in. So he had them
I still
murder.
yeah.
Bob.
Gotcha. I feel like it was much more
We're
simple
gonna
than I'm
need
making
that
it out to be.
spreadsheet, Katie.
Yeah,
If you
I
could
don't
forward
think
that
that
to
adds
us.
up because that guy, if he was like a contractor, and then the big boss guy, he did a presentation and then shot someone in the
Yeah.
presentation. It's not like you're like, all right, figure it out and come back to me with
Not a
your
great
next
way.
model.
Like
Like,
that's just expected in this world. It's like you do a presentation, you just come in knowing one of you is going to get shot. Like that's just you take out a certain life insurance for board meetings.
No one left the room.
No,
I love how like the old man at the end, at the head of the table was just like, oh god.
I know.
Oh, this
not
is
again.
embarrassing.
Oh,
Embarrassing.
this is a
The
bad
shareholder
guy.
newsletter is going to be hell this month.
I just want to say we're at 40 minutes already.
Got
Thank you,
it.
40. Really quickly, Ben, I want you to say your favorite line of this movie because that makes me so happy.
And I often question the punctuation in the script. I've yet to look up the screenplay and look, but my favorite line in this movie is "bitches leave." I'm wondering if it's bitches comma leave period or if it's bitches question mark leave period.
Or is it?
But whatever way Kurtwood Smith said it
Is there an
was
exclamation
Pontiac
point?
perfection.
Is it
I-
all caps?
I feel like there's no comma. It's more of a philosophy that bitches leave.
Bitches
Like,
leave.
hashtag
leaves.
bitches.
like in life.
Like, you know how some people have like a wooden plaque above their mantle that says faith? His says bitches leave.
Yeah, instead of live, laugh, love, his says bitches leave.
As
Right.
soon as that scene began, I'm like, oh, this is my favorite line in the whole movie.
You
Just the
guys
way he
so,
says
like
it. is
before
just
he said
so
it, you're like,
great.
I'm so excited for you
I'm
to
like,
hear this.
Someone wrote that and he delivered it in just
And again,
the
this
right-
is the same director as for Showgirls. Right before the pool scene with the sex, you're like, I cannot wait for you to watch this. It was like the same level, but for this one line, it was like,
Infamous.
bitches leave.
Infamous.
But it's something like that that actually makes me wonder, like, how seriously is this movie taking itself? Like, I feel like he's
that's
always
my thing.
he's always
seriously.
fucking around with it. Like when he spits on the dockets in the police station, said, "Just
Oh
give
my
me my
God, that
fucking
was
phone call." I was
so
like,
ridiculous.
so good delivery, but like I feel like that wasn't necessarily scripted. He made that choice, and then
Yeah.
I feel like they're always writing the line in this movie of how silly it is. The thing that I was most blown away by was like how much ammunition they used to try and put down RoboCop. There was like
50 cops with
rounds.
I
M5s.
thought he was bulletproof, and then all of a sudden they're like, just fucking unload, and it was like, yeah, that'll work. I'm like, it hasn't worked so far.
He
Why
has-
would all of a sudden it work?
He has the defense of putting his hand over his face.
So
That's all-
is
that's
that
his defense.
satire of what they're doing? Like, are they making fun of the whole thing in general? Are they making
Well-
fun of excessive violence?
Is
Oh,
this a
yeah.
hot take? I mean, do we want to move on to hot
We
takes?
are in a
Yeah.
hot
Did I
take.
So
segue
with
us
that-
unnaturally?
Yeah.
Let's do it. This shit happens organically. All right,
really
we're just
does.
we're gonna let it happen to us, much like this movie.
So we have a section in here called hot takes / conspiracy theories, and
Okay.
it's just a time for us to bring forth a very powerful argument for any scene or character in the movie. So continue on with that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, I pretty much summarized it, which is that I just don't. I think the movie is sometimes making fun of action movies at the same time it is an action movie.
Okay,
Okay.
that explains
hot
the
take.
meta plot as
My
well.
my hot take is that this movie is just making fun of America. This is all
Yeah.
Paul
Oh,
Verhoeven's
interesting.
view of the United States at the time. So in 1985 or 86, he's just
Honestly,
like these
now.
people- like yeah, and now right. You
Truthfully,
watch a
some
movie
of
like
that-
this now. Some of it is like a little.
I was a little
Triggered,
triggered by
yeah, a
it.
little
I was
bit.
like, but this is already happening.
The
Yeah.
hostage taker in City Hall
Holy
said,
shit.
"I want a recount.
I want
Yeah.
to recount.
I
Oh,
want
yeah.
to be. I want my old job back." We were like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah.
It's like
It was
holding
like-
people at gunpoint. And we're
Donald
both
Lines
took
were
like,
lying.
"Oh, too
notes.
soon."
He
Too
took
soon.
notes. Watched this and took notes.
I watched RoboCop. I got it.
I know
how
exactly
to
what
do
we're
it.
gonna do. Rudy, watch this. Just buy me a little time.
So yeah, I think it's Paul Verhoeven making fun of American culture. That's my take.
Yeah,
he just
that
he
sounds
does
right.
not respect
Mm.
us at all.
Sorry. Rocket's walking around the room a little bit, and I'm always worried that he's gonna pull on one of the cords that we have here.
just knock
Just
over
knock
our
something
entire
over.
setup.
Molly, you looked like you were gonna say something.
No.
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 Okay.
No.
I was trying to think. There was a hot take that I had. I think my hot take is kind of what Katie and I already talked about, which is that I think that the wife and the police dude, RoboCop names, they did get divorced, and that there's this whole other thing that happened, and that he's trying to redeem himself in the eyes of his child, and he's gonna do it by being a good cop and like doing this whole gun trick thing, and then it all goes to shit. And that was my whole conspiracy theory, is that there is this big subplot that we didn't see about them actually getting divorced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I
His
already.
memory could have been wrong. His memory as RoboCop.
That
could
is
have
such a
been
good hot
wrong.
take. That's like
That is
such
a
good hot
great
take. That,
hot
he
take.
changed his memory.
That his memories are scrambled,
real
kind of
hot.
like
Yeah.
the whole PTSD thing, where it's like, I'm gonna rearrange memories so that I can survive.
Yeah.
Well, there's really not enough tragedy in this film without some more divorce.
Well, my hot take is positive because I think Bobby's still alive and thriving. I think he's
Doing
found a
very
better
well.
job. I think he's found better friends. He's found
Yeah.
self-respect.
Yep.
I also think
If you
they
blow
had
the
too
door
many
open and
guys for a
burn me.
heist. That's another hot take. And they should have been at least buckled into the van if they're all bouncing around in that car with shotguns.
She was concerned with the lack of seatbelts and all those shotguns.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's dangerous.
That's
Safety
fair.
first. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
great.
Oh,
true.
another hot take or conspiracy theory would be toxic guy. Oh no, I was gonna say that he was alive, but then I remembered there's no way.
There's no.
I said that too. I
He
literally
got
said
exploded.
toxic waste monster, and I was like, maybe they'll do a sequel where it's RoboCop versus him, and Jake's like, no.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
This is where Toxic Adventure
completely
started.
Unnecessary, and you don't even notice the toxic waste vat at the
No.
during the establishing shots of the
doesn't
steel
even
mill.
look like
It's
one.
a steel mill, so there's no reason to have a vat of toxic waste there.
And wasn't it just
But
like
I don't care. I'm like,
Like it's an
I feel
aggressive
like it
makeup.
looked more like a
too.
shipping container than anything. It didn't really look like a toxic waste holder container. I don't know.
Just a silo of some sort that he crashes
Yeah, I'm
into.
like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, there's
looked
grain in there.
Yeah, it looked like a septic tank that was like outside. instead
But
of
Katie, you
underground.
thinking
Yeah.
he becomes like a monster / villain makes sense because it does still seem like a superhero film.
Yeah.
Like that,
That's
I
a
totally
good
get why you
point.
think that.
That's a good point.
Lots of spinoffs.
Well,
Yeah,
lot of
so many
spin-offs.
options.
I'll leave that for trivia, but there's a reason that it feels like a superhero movie.
My only other hot take on this movie is there was a lot of clapping, like where like one person claps, everybody claps in any room. And then with the bad guys, I really think they would make a great improv team and or improv audience because the way they yes and each other is pretty
Very
remarkable.
supportive. Yeah.
It's super supportive, and they
But that
are
one guy
great
in
laughers.
an improv audience with that cackle, that
Yes.
that's a little
I
much.
starred that
true.
in my notes. I'm like, the villains are really happy and they laugh a lot. In this
Yeah.
movie. They really do.
They're
There's
living their
something
best
there.
lives.
brought me
Someone
to
should be having fun.
The chemistry is
whole
good.
Thing.
It
I was
really
like,
is.
when life is going amok and everything's exploding, and then they all get those giant ass. What are those big guns?
They're not actual 50 caliber sniper rifles, but that's what they're based on.
They're
there
huge.
are actual sniper rifles that are that size. I'm not saying like all the
They
attachments
look
were
like
real, but
maybe missile launchers or something.
yeah, they fire a 50 caliber shell that is a foot long.
But
It's
I wondered, I was like,
insane.
why did we spend so much time on seeing each and every one of them getting a turn and then seeing that each and every one of them gets their own gun? I'm like, there's other than things exploding and the opportunity for things to explode, are we just making sure that everyone knows that like, hey, we want to make sure everyone in this gang gets equal ammunition, everyone gets their turn.
Also,
that
how
they're
did Clarence...
all a threat to him now. Like that they're
Yeah.
building the stakes
Oh.
that RoboCop is going to have to fight all four of them, and they don't just have one of these guns; they have four of them. And then we also need to show they can blow up buildings.
Yes,
We have
see.
a demolitions budget, so we're gonna use it.
that whole exterior set was just for blowing up. That's it. It was
It's
like
demo day,
two
y'all.
block facing sets, and then we're just gonna blow this shit up.
I like to think that this group of this gang member has a budget. We have a demolition budget.
Who's their accountant?
Like Bobby burnt half the money, so we have to be very careful.
Okay, unfortunately, we'll be a little tight this month, but next month
Just
we should
this
be back.
month, though, we're gonna get
Send
through
us
it.
a
trust me.
bill.
Yeah,
We have a sponsor now. We're being sponsored by
Yeah.
OCP. It's cool.
Casper mattresses.
Oh my god. Use what would the promo code be? What would their code be? Speaking of which, if you've had a hard day fighting RoboCop, we recommend sleeping on Casper mattresses. Casper mattresses will make sure that you sleep like a fucking baby. Use promo code what?
2020 Bobby.
ED209.
209.
OCP.
You'll
You
melt
doing
like
that?
you're in a vat of toxic waste.
Bobby's still alive.
Hashtag Bobby lives.
Yep.
So shall we hop into some trivia? I feel like that's
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Wait, are we
I-
not supposed to have read the Wikipedia or anything? Because I have to.
Oh,
Oh no,
Yeah.
no. I absolutely did. So
It's just
I did
that
not.
I did not either. And most people don't. That's the thing, is that I think that's why people like trivia so much, is because most of us don't really think to go and read this stuff unless you're Molly and you're amazing and you go and look at this
Love
stuff
it.
before
it.
you watch the movie.
I love it.
She like gets all the info first. All right.
So with that, let's
try.
and we're actually getting original music for the podcast being
Yes.
written and composed as we
Oh.
speak. So
Right on.
let's cue that brand new fancy ass. This movie was shot in Dallas, Texas, and most days it was over 100 degrees. So Peter Weller was losing 3 pounds a day just by being in the suit.
Yeah.
There was a suit, and I believe, and Molly, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you know this, but they made 3 or 4 different suits. I want to say they made 3, and their budget for each suit was like $1 million. So a big portion of the budget went to Rob Bottin and his makeup team to make these suits, but an air conditioner was eventually installed in one of
Wow.
them, so he
That's
wouldn't lose 3
insane.
pounds a day. Yeah.
Jeez.
Peter Weller hired the not head coach, but the head of movement at Juilliard, which is I feel like I should
Also-
like open up my shirt and show
It's a
like a
Juilliard
Juilliard
from
shirt
prom.
from the prom. He hired the head of movement from Juilliard to coach him through what it would be like, and the character they created ended up being kind of snake-like. And he was going to
Whoa.
sort of like move like this and kind of dodge bullets like that. But once Peter Weller got into the suit, he's like, I can't fucking move in this thing. So they had to stop production for 3 days and go over everything from scratch to make everything a little bit more, I don't know what the word is, but
robotic.
robotic, I suppose would be the word.
Silver painted guy you see on the subway.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
In the featurette that I watched, they called it a mime coach, not even the movement specialist, but they hired a mime coach.
A
Wow.
Juilliard mime
Wow.
coach.
Good for him.
Mime
That's
coach.
great.
And when that movement didn't work because they practiced everything before trying the suit on, which is a little silly.
So
Little
dumb.
silly. He changed it to wanting to be like bird-like movements, like when birds are like
snapping
checking
their head to like check stuff. Ooh.
and so
everyone do it. Good.
everyone be their RoboCop. So that was
Everyone
Be
be
your
a bear.
robo bird.
That
RoboBear.
kind of makes sense. Like his vision would snap to where his targeting system like figures it out. I guess.
Yeah. I dig
Is it true that he is so method that he didn't he require people to call him Alex Murphy or RoboCop on set? Is
They
that true?
were
Are you
calling him
serious?
Robo, and then after like 3 days of it, he's like, "That just sounds stupid. Stop calling
Okay.
me that." So he
Stop.
tried
It's
for a couple of.
RoboCop.
Excuse me,
Excuse me,
Robotic
Mr.
police
Cop.
officer. Mr.
Mr.
RoboCop,
Cop, if you please.
Thank you very much. Paul Verhoeven actually threw out the script the first time he read it. He hated it, but his wife actually fished it out of the garbage can. And she is the reason that the movie got made by him in the first place. So props to Paul Verhoeven's wife for digging it out of the trash can. Thank you very much. Nancy Allen, who plays Murphy's partner, and I'm going to get into this a little bit in Rants and Raves about her character specifically.
About her.
Her first day on set was when they were shooting those mock commercials, specifically the sitcom for the I Buy That for $1.
Oh yeah.
And she walked in while they were filming, and she thought she made the biggest fucking mistake of her life.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh no, I don't want to be in this movie. Please don't."
Bad.
And so they like filled her in on the rest. She's like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, just walking into that would probably freak me out too.
I loved how many
let's-
people always were like knee slapping how funny that show is. To
I
them.
Right.
know.
And I think of like the Lego movie where the line is like, "Where are my pants?" And I'm like, that is where it came from. I think the
Yeah.
Lego movie actually stole that whole concept from RoboCop, to be
Ooh.
honest. Yeah. So that's
that could be
a hot take, I
Hot
guess.
take.
That's a hot take.
Yeah. Thanks, Lego movie, for stealing off of RoboCop.
Super obvious.
The infrared special effects in this movie were done very cheap. Instead of buying an
great.
actual infrared lens, they stripped the actors butt naked and put them in a very specific type of body paint so that would show up
That did look
as
a
a
little
heat
different.
signature. Yeah, right?
Oh, it's
So
body
instead of
paint.
wasting budget on the infrared special effects and lens, they
Oh
just got them butt naked and
That's
painted and
interesting.
put them in paint.
God.
Yeah. So
I don't think it's the actors that we see that like I don't think it's
right. I
That
don't
guy
think
was
it's
way
it's
more
body
fit.
actors.
Correct.
That guy was
Yeah,
way
it's-
more fit than the hostage taker.
His
was.
infrared is like ripped.
for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can see
for
his
sure.
infrared abs on this.
It initially took why can I think Peter Weller, thank you. It initially took
You're
Peter
welcome.
Weller, thank you so much.
I called him Peter Murphy multiple
Peter
times.
Murphy.
Great name.
Robo Alex. It took him 11 hours start to finish originally to fully suit up head to toe. and
What?
Suit
Really?
11 hours for
The first
every
try
single
on.
part for the very first try on
Holy
from day one.
shit.
How did he pee?
I don't know.
They had a
So your call
catheter.
time is what, at 2 a.m. and you don't even get on set until what, 1 p.m. like right after lunch? That would be
Yeah, do
a
they just like do you just nap
nightmare.
in the
Couldn't have
suit
been-
while they keep putting stuff on you?
It must
If
have not
they
been a work
canceled
day.
shooting that day. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did it. They
Like-
canceled everything else that day. It was
Ugh,
like I
what a
think Peter's
nightmare.
He'd
was
put
like,
it
"I'm
on,
done."
go home, fall asleep, then come
Right.
to set with it still on.
That's why he was method the whole time because he couldn't take it off.
There was
That's
that,
actually him sleeping in that chair.
Yeah.
it's like, no, you're
also-
actually going to sleep here.
That's how Ben sleeps. I'm telling you right now. How
This- I
RoboCop
twitch
sleeps and
a lot.
twitches and freaks out and then
Oh, no.
stands up and goes out and starts fighting crime.
Okay,
That's
I
how
don't
Ben sleeps.
sleepwalk, but everything
Wow.
before that is
Is it
You
also
do
about your
do
first
quite a bit
divorce
of
and the-
sleep talking.
my first divorce.
You do a lot of
Did
sleep
I
talking.
get divorced or what?
Do we need to send some scientists over with receipts?
Yeah.
Yes, but the
CVS.
Oh no. CVS, thank you. CVS receipts.
The 12 photos.
The ones
Oh,
that you stick to a scarf.
There was a true story. There was a bank robber in Sacramento was being chased by the police while this movie was in theaters. He escaped into a movie theater while the movie was playing. And he was so captivated by it, he actually sat and watched the movie thinking he was safe, that he could just blend in with the crowd and that the cops would just pass him by. What he didn't notice was that the entire theater was being evacuated behind him because the movie was so loud that he couldn't see the cops pulling people out of the theater safely. until
My
he was the
God.
very last one left.
And then they
And they
replaced
arrested him.
themselves with police officers. But when he got up and turned
Slowly
around,
52
the entire
cops
police
row
force
by
was
row.
there.
And they all clap because that's what's happening in the movie all the time.
Yes. And then he starts clapping too and turns
Yeah,
around and realizes it's all cops.
Yeah.
The steel mill scenes were some of the last scenes that were shot, and working with Paul Verhoeven was very tedious. Apparently, he was always behind schedule. So Kurtwood Smith and the guys who played the gang would race golf carts around the set, constantly crashing, knocking shit over. They actually got in a lot of trouble, but I thought that was funny. And
amazing.
finally, there were 12 submissions to the MPAA for this movie. 12 submissions to get it to a rated R. It came back rated X 11 times
What?
before they cut it just
I
enough.
believe that.
Because of
get
the
it to-
violence?
Yeah, there was even more violence. So the director's cut is out
Christ.
there,
I
which
mean,
I
it
kind of
is-
want to watch.
It is. It's just violence.
Yeah.
It's-
The whole movie.
Yeah.
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 Great.
And it was made for $13 million, made over 53. So it was a winner
Wow.
at the box office. That's my
Wow.
trivia. Molly, do you have
Wow.
anything to add?
Just a little bit. So we keep saying that it felt like a superhero movie, and that's because one of the writers, who I cannot remember now, was given like 50 comic books to read. And then he decided, like, oh, I like this. I like this idea. Let's make it a
Elements.
cop,
Mm.
and let's make it a robot. Along with the fact that the other writer, I'm sorry I didn't write down names, was already working on a similar movie. So like they
Mhm.
came together and created
Oh.
RoboCop. But
Yeah,
it,
didn't they all happen to be like in the same elevator at the same time or on a plane or something like that? Like these two came together and were able to pitch some executive at Orion before MGM bought them. Something like that. It just all kind of fell into place or something like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Just as a quick aside, where do you guys
yeah.
get your information? Like, where do you guys look for? Like, do you guys go to IMDb or
Deep
Wikipedia?
web.
The dark web.
The dark
so
web.
fun story. Amazon Prime has a whole trivia section, and there's over 300 pieces of trivia on the
Yeah.
Amazon Prime Video.
So Molly,
It's really not that
So
hard to
that's
find.
great.
Yeah.
I also they have so many behind the scenes little featurettes that have shown up on YouTube, so I watch a lot of those.
oh, those are cool.
Those are cool. And then Wikipedia, IMDb.
I want to say the Amazon Prime thing I also look over, but I'm starting to realize they farm them from IMDb, which I think are user submitted. And so I was starting to get a little
Ooh.
like incredulous at some of these. And
It's
I
like
have to read you this
Wikipedia.
one that I mentioned to Katie, which is they do a lot of like goofs, like continuity errors of like you could see whatever in the
Oh,
shot
yeah.
sometimes, or like the writing of certain things. They'll be like, there's no way this could happen because of physics or whatever. But here's one goof that they listed in the Amazon Prime trivia section. Factual error. State laws dictate that police can only use reasonable force. No court in the country would allow an actual RoboCop to be used.
Wow, that's a really good point.
An actual RoboCop? What is he basing this off of?
Bitches leave.
I want this person's
Leave.
username. I want to find them.
Um,
Wow.
Also, the buildings that we see getting blown up are not a set. They purchased and rented 12 empty buildings that were just on that street and blew them the fuck
That's
up
so
They just-
great.
Dallas?
They're not going to get their
Dallas.
deposit back.
Yeah.
in
No.
Dallas. And every night of shooting, there were complaints from neighbors from the city.
From
so
other
they-
counties.
Every
Like,
time there
this
was an
is
explosion.
excessive.
Wow.
Yeah. And another little fun fact that doesn't really have anything to do with this movie particularly, but I just like to know this, that Mythbusters busted that a gas station can get blown up with with flowing gas and a cigarette. They busted it.
Ah,
Cannot happen.
remember that.
really?
Doesn't happen that
Yeah.
way. And
That's
also when
disappointing.
gasoline lights on fire, it doesn't explode.
It just
It's
burns
just
for
fire.
a long time.
Burns.
right?
That is that's
Fire.
such a good hot fact.
Hot fact.
Hot fact.
I was
Um,
gonna say it during hot
Hot
takes.
fact.
I was like, that doesn't work like that.
That's a
But
hot fact. Because that happens in so many movies.
It
really
does.
does.
Where it's like
It
the
happens a lot.
and
We
walk
constantly
away.
say
When it blows up.
movies are bullshit on this. On
Yeah,
the show.
I think that should be like some like limited edition merch
On
that
our
just says
swag.
movies are bullshit.
and then during the shot of that gas station scene, the explosion was so big that it lit the station on fire. Like it lit the building on fire, and it was not supposed to.
That was a
Oh my
big
God.
explosion.
It was a big explosion,
Yeah.
and so they were told you can't do that again. And the director of photography was like, I don't know if we got the shot, and they were like, you can't do that again.
Literally.
Also, it's the summer in Texas. Like, how does it not
Oh,
catch everything
man.
on fire?
Right.
I like that the shooting of RoboCop had the same scene that happened within the boardroom, which was when the
Right.
robot shot everything, and they were like, "You can't do that again." And then they blew up something. They're like, "You can't do that again."
You can't do that again.
Can't do that
And
again.
all of the shooting of Pete Murphy was practicals. They built a full scale version of his head. They
Oh,
built
that was
That
animatronic
insane.
that came
That
up.
thing.
hands that actually
I'm here for
shot
Holy
off.
God.
I'm here for it. I love
So
it. His
none
arm,
of that
uh,
is
And
CGI.
again,
I
like,
Not
and
fucking
I
love
don't
it. It
know,
was
like,
so
what it
great.
is. Normally, that kind of stuff would totally trigger me, like, super hard, and I'd have a hard time watching it. I even told Ben, like, if we had watched this movie maybe, like, even 4 months ago when I was super sensitive to that stuff, I could not have watched this. But this, I was like, oh, wow. Just like, I'm like, oh, the craftsmanship that went in to making this hand.
Yeah.
Like, I got so into all in my head, I'm thinking of all the people that are like constructing and painting and putting together this head. I got so excited
great.
for it.
was so
Yeah.
great. I'm here for
We've
it.
been watching older movies we've been doing Never Seen It Sunday. We're watching movies that we haven't seen
Oh,
before.
I love it.
That's
Because I haven't seen a lot of movies. And that's like one of the things that we're loving the most about watching movies from this era is just the practical effects and the practical
Yes.
stunts. The stunts
Yes.
that like I don't know, it's very cool.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
so
totally.
impressive. It's so impressive.
They
Yeah.
had to make one of the reasons they had to make multiple RoboCop suits is because he had, if not one, or more than one stunt double, and they all
Sure.
also had to have their own custom suits
Oh,
made.
Yeah.
sure.
That makes
So
No,
that's
yeah, that makes
it's a
lot of
lot.
sense.
It's a lot.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
The
That's
suit
trivia.
team, there's
All
a
right,
whole
guys.
team of them.
So,
Whole team of people.
so now we're gonna go into what we call is it would you rewatch? Would you watch this again? Would you recommend someone watch it?
Is it worth your time?
Is it, as Prue
Mhm.
would say from Bake Off, worth the calories? We're gonna cut over to our guests. Jake, do you think that this is worth a watch?
Yeah, because it's so iconic. Like I was expecting to like it more on the second rewatch than I kind of did. I was like, this is a little excessive. But then I remembered, as we've been talking about, the excess is kind of the point because it's satirizing both Americans and excessive violence. But then it
Yeah.
is just a stupid amount of excessive violence.
Yes,
too.
even
there's
in
so
being
many-
excessive.
There's so many cultural quotes and Dead or Alive, You're Coming With Me, and there's just so many like images and stuff that I think people reference that I think it's definitely worth seeing. And there's a lot of really great aesthetic choices within the stuff that they made too. It's a fun picture of the future.
Totally agree.
Mhm.
Katie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the reason I would rewatch it. I don't know if I would rewatch it,
I don't think I
honestly.
would.
I don't think I would rewatch it. I guess to see it, yeah, like I'm happy I've seen it just so I can like say I wouldn't rewatch it.
Would you
It's
recommend
excessive,
it?
and I get this, I
Yeah.
get the satire, and I get like what it's poking fun at, and
Mhm.
but still, like to me, that level of and the craftsmanship is cool. So there are things of like I'm glad I saw it, but
Would you recommend somebody else watch it?
depending on why they want to watch it.
Okay.
Honestly, like
Maybe.
I like
Thank you.
yeah, if you want to know about RoboCop and like get the cultural references to it, yes. I don't personally think I like enjoyed the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, you said you were
Nice.
bored at one point, right?
I was because I get honestly when there's that much violence, I get a little like numb.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
you
get
kinda
numbed
check
out,
Disconnect, yeah.
and I'm like I don't even. But
I'm like-
there are good scenes, so I know this is like kind of a bad answer, but
Yeah.
It's
If someone
not a bad
asks you, you're
answer.
just gonna go.
We'll get into rants and
Why?
raves later.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say I didn't love it, but I wouldn't tell you not to watch it.
There we go. Okay.
Go.
That's fair.
Megan.
I think kind of I'm gonna say something really similar to Katie. It's like I would recommend watching it, but with a disclaimer that if you don't like any Quentin Tarantino movies, you won't like this movie. Like you have to be okay with the fact that it is satire in regards to excessive violence and that it's almost laughable at how violent it is. No, not almost. It is laughable at how violent it is. So if you go in thinking, oh, it's a superhero movie and you're expecting like, modern day Avengers, you are going to be sorely disappointed and backhand slapped with a movie you were not expecting.
Mm.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That was me.
Yeah. So
I don't like it.
I would recommend it, but maybe do a little bit of tiny bit of research before you go in. Ben,
Watch it. Watch this fucking movie.
You
Did you
don't
like it
care.
as
I don't
much
care
as you
who you
did when
are.
you were a kid?
I liked it so much more than the last time I watched
Really?
it.
Wow.
There was so much that I appreciated. Now, Megan was talking about the practical effects, and I think maybe because there is so much CGI in movies like these today, that going back and opening the time capsule that is this movie, it's like a breath of fresh air, and it is acted so well. I'll get into everything that I really loved and really want to talk about in Rants and Raves, but it is. I think it is culturally iconic. There's a lot of, like Jake was saying, a lot of great scenes, a lot of great lines. Even if you didn't grow up in this time necessarily, so I was 3 when this came out, but
You watched it when you were
no,
3?
I didn't watch it when I was 3, but it's one of those movies that I think is important because of its message of, satirizing violence and look at where we are. It's almost a mirror up to nature for American society. So there's a lot of sort of meta messages in this that I think are important, including, capitalism, the merging of technology and humanity, and how we live now, how we are so dependent upon technology to quote unquote survive. There's a lot of stuff that you can pull from this that I think is very applicable to our lives today. So I would say watch it. But yes, it is a very violent movie.
Yes.
And you should know that going in. And there's a part of me that feels like I should apologize for those who didn't know. I just assumed everyone knew RoboCop was like, oh my God, so over the top. But Molly, I see your big eyes and I'm so sorry.
Your sweet eyes.
Your big sweet eyes. So I would say, yes, it's worth your time. I say watch it. But just know all that stuff going in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's our episode. If you subscribe to a Patreon level where you get to hear rants and raves, be sure you check that out. Otherwise, you guys, thank you so much. Oh, fingers up. What?
Nope. Go ahead.
Oh, great. Okay. Sorry. I was like, oh
That's
God,
all
am I
our business.
forgetting something? Finger time. Thank you so much to Katie and Jake for coming. We so loved having you.
Thanks for having
Is there,
us.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anything that we can promote for you that you've got going on right now, or handles on social media? What can we do to make sure people know about you?
Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I'm the Katie Michels, and Michels has no A in it, so it's Michels. I have to say it.
It's true.
I know.
It's a common name with a weird spelling. Thanks a lot, Jake.
You're welcome.
The Katie Michels at Twitter and Instagram and Twitch.
Twitch, is that a new one?
Twitch is like a streaming service.
Oh, that's the gaming thing, Molly. You were talking about this. I'm like Ethel Beavers.
No.
Now, what channel is that?
Yeah. That's me.
And then I just finished the dungeon run, but we're hoping to continue that. So if you love Dungeons and Dragons or storytelling or both, check out the dungeon run. You can find it on YouTube. That's it.
Hey.
All right.
Jake.
And I'm the Jake Michels, spelled the same way as Katie's with no A in the last name. Thanks, Katie.
You're welcome.
I've also started a production company last year called Good Time Society, which is at Good Time Society. We are on YouTube as well and Twitch. We also have a podcast called To Boldly Watch, which can be found wherever you get podcasts. It's where we watch Star Trek: The Next Generation front to back, and we are currently just finishing up season 2, and it's been a blast. I highly recommend you come check it out.
That's so great. Yay. Well, thanks so much for coming, you guys. We loved having you. Yeah, for all of our subscribers, please be sure to go follow these guys and like, subscribe, share to us. Be sure to find us on Patreon, where there's a lot of different fun bonus material that you can peruse, even some awesome Patreon only merch that you can get. That's patreon.com/SIMAC podcast. Same thing goes for all of our social media handles. And is there anything else?
I think that's it.
That's it. Okay. Well, thanks so much. And be sure to stay tuned for our next episode. What we'll watch and who will be here. Who knows? I don't know.
Is that a new character?
Yes.
Okay.
Her name is Delia.
Okay. Hi, Delia.
Like the
Delia Fashions?
Yeah,
Oh.
like Delia Fashions, like
Okay.
the catalog that you would
Okay.
get.
Kept talking
Always.
about Delia's all day yesterday with one of
Were
my
you really?
coworkers. Yeah.
Oh my god! I also like you calling it Delia Fashions.
I heard Delia Fashions,
Delia Fashions?
somewhere. I
Levi
want to say I got that
Fashions?
from like a
The
Stephen King
Delia
novel or something.
Fashions?
Yeah.
Of course, of course.
Katie and Jake Michels, thank you so much for being here. And to our listening audience, we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.